Alright, so let's talk about pre-ride checks. Talking about your tires, you should visually check, looking for leaks, excessive wear, damage, nails, things in the sidewalls. You should check the tire pressure with a gauge. I know that on the T-CLOCS, or like every time you ride your bike, check your tire pressure, but I don't know anybody who actually does that other than, you know, instructors. Inspect the spokes if you have a spoked bike. When you're checking the spoke tires, you want to tap the spokes and they'll emit a tone. Ones that sound dead are the ones that actually need to be adjusted, so they'll sound like a clunk instead of a ting. Check your bike for leaks, like oil leaks. You know, inspect the floor below your bike where it's been sitting. You also want to check around the engine compartment, things like that, to see if there's been anything dripping or blowing back on the engine while you're riding. You should also check your throttle. The thing about the throttle is it should be smooth. It shouldn't be, you know, you shouldn't feel any kind of resistance or anything like that when you pull back the throttle and release the throttle. It should go back to its original position. You probably need a buddy for your brakes. If you've got a GoPro or something like that, you could record this, but you want to press the lever on the brakes and make sure that they're both sides are properly gripping the rotor the way they're supposed to. If you have any gaps or anything like that, it can cause stutter, which causes you to lose control of the bike, or it could cause it to bind up. For your lights, you want to check your brake lights, your tail lights, your headlight, all of your lights to make sure they work. I do this every time I ride just because I don't want to get into a situation where I get pulled over. Engine oil. I do this every time I ride also. I check the dipstick just to make sure that it's at the proper level. I don't want to ride down the road and, you know, overheating, things like that, and have to add oil to it. If I think that there's a possibility that's going to happen, I'll take extra oil with me, or I'll fill it up before I ride. Now, if I'm going on a long distance trip, I'll definitely take extra oil with me, like a quart or something like that with me. You can always buy more on the road when I'm on the way. Especially Harley has dealerships all over the country, so there's not like you're not going to find something unless it's a Sunday. Of course, most of them are closed, and then you can just stop by at normal, you know, Walmart or something like that. Remember, you want to use synthetic oil if you're using a Harley. Fuel level, obviously you should constantly checking that. Don't ride your bike when the fuel gets low. Fuel pump is actually inside the gas tank. Fuel keeps the fuel pump cool. So if your fuel starts to get low, your fuel pump can overheat and burn up on you. You don't want that. If you have a drive chain or a drive belt, you want to check the tension on that, the proper tension for your bike. A clutch operation, that should be smooth also. When you pull the clutch, it should pull in and release and go back to its original position. There's a little bit of play when you're working on your clutch. I don't know specifically how much that is. I'll probably check and link that, but you want to make sure you've got smooth operation, that just like you do your brakes and your throttle. Cables, you want to make sure that the cables are loose, that there's no binding. When you're adjusting like your clutch or your brakes, you want to make sure that you turn your front wheel all the way to the left, all the way to the right, and while the engine's running, to make sure that you don't hear it rev up or the engine idle lower while you're turning it. That means that there's some sort of binding or it's not properly adjusted. Check your owner's manual to make sure that you can find out what the proper adjustment is. You can also get other manuals out there like a Climber's or a Haynes manual, and those will tell you what the proper adjustment is. Nuts and bolts. You always want to make sure that your nuts and bolts are tight. You don't want anything falling off when you're riding down the road, especially like a tire. That would be very bad. Anything that you've bolted to your bike.